Hello, Peter.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Geedunk. We just saw Spider-Man No Way Home.
That's right, everybody. Is this the kind of Spidey reunion we've all been waiting for? Stick around, because we're about to find out.
All right, guys, before we get in this movie, we're going to get heavy into spoiler territory here.
Yeah, we are.
So, Billy, who's in this movie?
Who's not in this movie, Josh?
If you're a Spider-Man fan of the previous movies, this movie is for you.
Oh, yeah. You got all the main villains from the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire movies back. You know, we got Doc Ock back, Andrew Molina. You know, we got some Willem Dafoe back as Green Goblin. We got Jamie Foxx back as Electro. Who else we got, man? We got the Lizard Man back. I don't even remember who it was played him. But he's back. We got, who's the fifth one? Sandman. Whole Sandman's back, even though...
that guy from Wings. You ever seen that show?
Yeah, dude, that's right. Wings, man.
Yeah, and of course, we got Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Andrew Garfield says he wasn't in it. He tried to bamboozle us.
He lied to us, Andrew. But we knew.
I think everyone pretty much knew.
We knew you were going to be there. That's right.
So, and it was good to see them.
Oh, dude, yeah. Yeah, it was definitely good to see them. No doubt.
I tell you, the movie theater went crazy when Andrew Garfield came in on scene.
Yeah, yeah. For me, the theater I was in, it was both when both came on scene, people were cheering. You know, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's Tobey!" Like people were happy to see. Right.
And it was great to see him. And what the main thing I love about this movie is it ties all the Spider-Man movies together. So you know, when the Andrew Garfield one came out, you had mixed feelings because now it's like, oh, I like the Tobey Maguire ones, but are those irrelevant now? Well, this makes them all relevant, which is super cool.
Exactly, because you know, and then with Tobey Maguire ones, you had the MJ. But then with Andrew Garfield ones, it was all about Gwen, Stacy, you know, and then you get to the new Tom Holland, and it's a totally different MJ, right? So it's like, man, how are, you know, and I don't think they originally had planned on these being three different Spider-Man, right? They
of course not.
But the way they were able to make it that way in this movie just made it perfect, right? Then all that nonsense got washed away, right? And it's like, okay, now it's completely described. It's all different universes, so now I'm happy. You know?
Yeah, and this is kind of like the Spider-Man CU, you know, it's like the MCU, but just Spider-Man, which is really cool.
Yeah, this is like the Miles Morales, you know, Spider-Man, you know, the anime one, which is awesome. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse, it's got a similar plot as that.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was good, man. The way they did it in this, you know, and originally I was like, man, how are they gonna, you know, I mean, what was it, Spider-Man 2, where he was facing off like three villains?
Spider-Man 3 from the Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, with that one, I just thought at time that just too many villains, right? Just, you know, it's hard to play out all those stories in a short such time frame. And I thought it was going to be, I was like, man, 5 villains. I was like, how are you going to do that with 5 villains? But I thought they were able to, well, plus it was a 2.5-hour movie this time around. But I thought they were able to do it pretty well. You know, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the final fight scene against them all, but for the most part, I thought they were at least able to tie in all the villains together and kind of one common theme amongst the villains, right? So
it's almost like they planned this entire time amongst these, 8 movies or so.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like really cool.
Yeah, even though that wasn't the case at all.
Right, yeah. So what did you think about the old villains returning?
It was nostalgic to see them, especially the actors, you know, reprising their old roles, you know, but at the same time, it was just one of the things where I kind of wanted somebody new, you know, it's like, give me somebody new here.
The other Spider-Man movies, for me, especially the Amazing Spider-Man series, did not have the greatest villains. Seeing Electro come back, I wasn't a fan of him before, and he doesn't do a whole lot for me this go-round either.
Yeah, no, same.
The Lizard, you know, I'm not a big fan of him either.
Yep.
So...
You know, Kirk Connors.
Yeah, so really the ones who kind of shine in my book here are the Green Goblin and Doc Ock.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sandman, I kind of don't even know why he's in this movie.
Right. Well, and Sandman, the way they did him in this movie, I thought was just messed up because Sandman's whole thing was like, hey, I just want to get back home to my daughter. And then he finds out he's going to die, and he's like, you know, so Spider-Man's like, hey, I'm going to try to cure all you guys, so when you get back home, you're not going to die. And then Sandman's like, all right, well, I just want to get home to my daughter. And then the other villains are like, nah, screw that, man. We're in a new universe here. We're going to take this place over. But then Sandman, even though he wants to get home to his daughter and really doesn't want to, you know, go with what their plan is, he teams up with them anyway against Spider-Man.
Which is kind of like the other movie, Spider-Man 3. He does the same deal. He's not really a villain, but he goes with the villain's way because. You know what I mean?
And it made no sense.
And then he regrets it in the end on Spider-Man 3, which is kind of like, sort of what happens here. But,
right, yeah, exactly.
But I just don't think you really need him. You got enough villains, but I guess they really wanted to pack as much previous Spider-Man stuff in here as they could. So.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like this.
And Venom obviously didn't make a whole lot of sense, especially what they're doing with Venom these days, so he's kind of out, right? So,
yeah, exactly, for now.
Yeah, but it might have been nice to see Venom make a little appearance.
Yeah, it would have been cool. Yeah, it would definitely been cool if you'd had
Which
Venom.
he kind of does at the end.
Speaking of little appearances, man, we got some Matt Murdock, baby.
Oh,
that was awesome.
That
man.
was great to see.
I saw that dude. I was like, yes, Matt Murdock, Daredevil. And of course, they brought the same actor back to play him. I was like, oh, man, now all we need now some John Bernthal, man. When he's Punisher, if they'd have had a little cameo of him in it, man, I'd have been like, I'd been on cloud nine, man. Like, yeah.
And let me tell you, like, this movie, it's kind of like mixed because it's like a nostalgia bomb for you, and like you're just riding, that high, and I'm like, this is a 10. It does start to wear on me in that third act, but when the first two acts, it's just this is an amazing movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there's some parts that didn't make sense, like there's some things that go down in it with Spider-Man and Aunt May, and kind of that whole scenario. And it explains it later of, okay, each Spider-Man's lost somebody they love, so kind of, so that they've all got that tying them together now, so he's finally got somebody, he's finally got his tie into that, and it's great how they tied all that together, but at the same time, the way that scene went down is like, dude, you can't do a little more here? Like,
I really love the bonding scene amongst the Spider-Man. They all have shared things, like he just loses Aunt May, and they're like, I kind of know what you're going through, even though they tell you not to say that in grief, but like, they're like, I kind of know what and he's like, you don't know what I'm going through! and they just kind of be quiet and pull it back a little bit, but
and then finally they are able to say, he's like, hey man, I lost somebody, dude. I lost my Gwen, man. I lost my version of your MJ, and then Spider-Man, and then Tobey Maguire's like, hey man, I lost Uncle Ben, I thought Andrew Garfield lost Uncle Ben too, though, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so really Andrew Garfield lost two, right?
Well, he can't like be a one-upper and be like, I've lost more than all you.
I lost two people, you guys.
But yeah, I mean that's probably the best part of the movie to me is when you have all three Spider-Mans together and they're interacting and sharing their stories and what's different with them, especially like Tobey Maguire can shoot webs without a device, so they're like, what's this about?
They're like jealous. They're all jealous. They're like, what the hell?
How does this work? Explain this to me. So you guys can't do that?
And like, can you shoot that out of just your arms or what?
And that's what's great is because like you could tell they went through all these movies and like picked up on these like intricacies that make them very different. To bring that up, and it's cool that they brought that back.
Yeah, the dynamic between those three guys, man, was fantastic, dude. Like when they brought Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in, and just the comedy between those three guys, and kind of just clowning on each other a little bit and stuff. It was great, It was that definitely for me really helped make the movie, right?
I love where Ned even comes in and he's like, do you got like a man in the chair with you? And then Tobey Maguire's like, yeah, I had a best friend. And he's like, he died in my arms because he tried to kill me. So,
and then the look on Ned's face.
Like, I had to kill him.
So Ned's like, and of course he walks over to his Peter. He's like, hey Peter, just so you know, man, I'm never gonna try to kill you.
So there's a lot to like here, and seeing the villains, he's going around kind of collecting them like they're Pokemon characters or something like that, which is like pretty cool.
Yeah, gotta catch them all, man.
Yeah. So
and of course Doctor Strange was in it, but his role wasn't very prominent. He's in it a little bit in the beginning, he's in it a little at the end, and it was a little. I was a little off about how that whole scene went down and how the whole multiverse got screwed up anyway, because the way that spell went down, it was like he probably should have asked Tom Holland before he started the spell, hey, is there anybody that you want to keep knowing you before I start this spell?
I mean, like Peter Parker floats this idea to Doctor Strange. He's like, I can hook you up with that, and then he just like starts going into it, and then Spider-Man's like, how about this? How about this? And he's like, okay, just that, and then like. I mean, if it's that serious, maybe you should have had a planning meeting before you start casting this
conversation beforehand,
spell.
right? Exactly. Strange just jumps into it. Hey, I got you, brother. Let's do this.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, that one, that. And then he gets like super pissed at the end. He's like, you don't even know what you're doing. I'm like, well, you could have had a conversation about how serious this was. Exactly. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. So that whole the way this whole dilemma happened to begin with was kind of screwed up. It was like, I kind of don't understand why. I mean, and granted, Doctor Strange is very narcissistic, right? So I guess you can kind of explain it away like that. Like he's like, I got this, man. I don't, don't worry about it.
It was a very weak premise to like introduce this movie because he's like, hey, everyone knows who I am. Can you make them forget that? And that is essentially the basis for this movie. And you're like, that's it?
Right. Everybody forgetting who Spider-Man is. Yeah, exactly.
And Doctor Strange's like, I can hook you up.
got you, brother.
Wong's kind of like, I wouldn't mess with that, and then he kind of like goes off.
Yeah, he's like, just keep me out of this. He's like, I'm bouncing.
But you would think there'd be some kind of rules against this kind of stuff or something like, come on, Strange, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly, man. You know, and Wong highly advised against it. You know, I was like, I don't think it's cool, but hey, whatever, man.
And is he the Sorcerer Supreme or not?
Right.
Because allegedly Wong is, so shouldn't what Wong says go?
Yeah, Wong should just said, don't do it, you know, but he didn't say that. He just like, hey, just keep me out of this. So
I thought that was a little strange that Wong was the Sorcerer Supreme.
Well, but it's funny though. Remember in the commercials, Wong did say, "Don't cast that spell, Strange." But then in the movie, that never happens, right? He never tells him that in the movie. So I guess that was just one of those scenes they, you know,
maybe they thought like, nah, that's too much of a rift between the two.
Right, exactly. Yeah, maybe so.
So maybe they thought like, let's walk that back a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
But it is a weird premise to get the movie going, but you kind of just roll with it.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that Wong is Sorcerer Supreme, you based on that, you'd think maybe we'd see a little more Wong in this to come help out after all heck breaks loose in the scenario, right? But no more Wong, man. He's like, nah, I'm gone, man.
Doctor Strange doesn't do a whole lot too. He's really regulating it to Peter Parker. He's like, you screwed this up, and you're gonna fix it. So. Yeah. Well, and he gives him like some special web slinger thing that if he hits the characters, they are transported into this cell or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, overall, man, I was impressed, dude. Like I said, it was a lot better than what I thought. I went into it like, man, how are they gonna make this work with 5 villains? Just don't, you know. I was like, but after watching it, man, I was sold. I
really liked the villains coming on scene in the beginning, but I just didn't really like them as the main villains in the end of this. Like having Electro be one of the main baddies, I'm like, he's probably the worst villain to begin with, and now you're making him the main villain almost in this.
Yeah, well, and how easy they made it to take some of them guys down there at the end. I was like, you know, but.
And I guess one could argue the Green Goblin could be the main villain, and I like him.
Right. And Willem Dafoe does a great job playing the character.
We've seen so much of him before.
Right.
And I get this is kind of a rehash, but it would be nice to see something, maybe like someone controlling them or something a little different.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
And I like Doc Ock. He's great.
All right. Alfred Molina's a great actor, and he does that role fantastic, you know, especially when he switches from being good to bad and vice versa. And yeah, no, he did awesome at that for sure.
And I will say, like, that scene with Aunt May dying, like, Spider-Man, man, he needs some training or something because he didn't do any like trauma casualty care on her at all. Like he sees that she's bleeding, he doesn't ever attempt to stop the bleeding.
Oh no, he's like, don't worry, May, I'm here with you.
He's like, let's go, May, get your ass up. What's wrong, May? I'm like, geez, maybe you could have saved her. Like shoot some webbing or something and stop the bleeding. Stop the bleeding. But no.
No, it wasn't none of that, man. But of course, he's a 17-year-old kid, you know. So
yeah, well, he's an Avenger.
Yeah,
he's been in combat.
Oh, and that was great too. And that was great too. You know, he's like, you know, hey guys, I'm not trying to, you know, toot my own horn here, but hey, you know, I am an Avenger. And they're like, oh, you're great, you're an Avenger. What's the Avenger?
Are you in a band or what is that?
Is it like a rock band? Or the other Spider-Man. That was awesome.
Because they don't know anything about the Avengers and stuff, and he tries to use that as like, I'm kind of a big damn Avenger. I don't know about you guys. And they're like, what's that?
Man, what's an Avenger? So, you like some kind of rock band or something?
I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
So is there any other positive or negatives that stood out in your mind?
Yeah, man, like I said, you know, the only real negative is like I said, I'd like to see a new villain, you know, or some kind of something there, or maybe like you said, somebody controlling those guys, or something, you know, something a little different in there that we haven't seen before, but there wasn't. There's nothing we haven't seen here. But again, the nostalgia factor of it, of bringing all the Spider-Man together, bringing all the villains together, I think trumped that. You know, for the most part, so it was a good movie. It was a good movie.
And again, that third act kind of brought it down a little. I didn't really like the setting of the Empire State Building. It was dark, and I don't know. It was just a bunch of like.
What, you mean the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, that's what I meant. What did I say?
It's the Empire State Building.
Statue of Liberty, and there's a bunch of like CGI Spider-Man swinging around, and it does its typical over-the-top kind of CG stuff. Yeah, especially with Electro, and I'm just kind of like,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's only one. Yeah, and I think I said that earlier. There's only one part to me that was like, it was the end. You know, that end final battle against all the guys. But at the same time, I mean, that was what, maybe a 20-minute piece of the movie. Vice, you know, the other, 2 hour and 10 minutes of it. So
yeah, and there's a scene where Spider-Man is going toe to toe with Green Goblin, and Green Goblin kind of easily bests him. But later on in the movie, they fight again, and Spider-Man is handling him like. He's no big deal.
No, he eats Spider-Man's lunch in that first fight scene, man. I mean, Spider-Man couldn't even do nothing.
And then again, we see Tobey Maguire get stabbed, and again, like they are just moving him around. They're not trying to stop the bleeding there either. So these Spider-Men need to go back to some training with bleeding and stuff like that. Some trauma,
some triage training.
Yeah, I don't know. They need some improvements there.
No doubt, man. All right, man. What you rating this?
I tell you what, as I was in the theater in those first two, I was thinking this is a 10. I was so big on it, but that third act really does bring it down to me. So I'm going to give this a 9 overall.
Wow. Yeah, that's good, man. I was right there with you in the beginning, man. Dude, and especially when they brought in Tobey Maguire and freaking and Andrew Garfield, dude. I was like, holy cow. And the dynamic between them and everything, I was like, man, these guys are awesome together. I was like, man, I want some more of this. I want these guys in more Spider-Man movies. You know, bring these guys into the MCU,
I want a lot more Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man if I could have it.
Oh, absolutely, man. I was like, yeah, I was digging it. I was loving it, you know. And then, like I said, though, that final act, man, that fight scene, I was like, man, it's missing something. You know, I was like,
it definitely is missing something. It's hard to like, you know, put your finger on it, but it's missing something.
But I'm right there with you, man. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna give this a 9 too, man, because
you look like you were starting to go to an 8, but
I was. You know, it's a toss up for me, you know, but you know, when I compare this to other movies we've seen this year, you know, and it's better, you know, it really is. It's a better movie, you know, and it's right up there with, you know, I think it was, you know, I think it was better than Free Guy, you know, I think it was better than even King Richard, even though they're two different types of movies, right?
A lot different,
you know. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 too, and I think that's the highest we ever rated a movie.
The main thing about this that elevates it to me is it makes the other movies relevant and good too. So not only does it. Not only is this a good movie, it makes those other movies better as well. And
it takes stuff that I was frustrated about in the past, about changing up the freaking female characters and all, you know, all the other changes they made in the Spider-Man universe. Whenever, you know, when you thought it was all the same Spider-Man, and they're just making these changes or making Flash this, you know, goofy, you know, kid who's definitely not Flash,
not
you know,
the jock guy,
not the jock Flash we know, and then explaining it like, oh, the reason it's this way because it's all different universes, and it's like, yeah, I can dig that, you know, like, okay, thank you, Marvel, thank you, you know, for doing that and giving us that explanation now, even though we know darn well that wasn't your intent to begin with when you made these movies, but at least that freaking cleans it all up for me, and I can say, okay, it's different universes, cool, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, well, Marvel had nothing to do with those other movies.
Well,
they're
sure.
Sony properties,
movies,
and Sony has to make a Spider-Man movie every now and then, or they lose the license. So,
right, exactly.
Now, what do you think of the actual ending where it wraps up and Peter Parker now doesn't even, like, no one knows who Peter Parker is Spider-Man or even know who Peter Parker is,
period, right? Nobody knows who Peter Parker is. I thought, well, the thing is, when it went down, you know, and he flat out told, you know, his friends, he told MJ and his little buddy that, hey, you guys aren't going to remember me, but don't worry, I promise, I'm going to come back and make you remember me, right? And then it has that final, you know, little cut scene there where he comes back, you know, he meets them in the restaurant where MJ works, right? And Ned and MJ are both there hanging out. And he starts to tell them, and then he just like sees how happy they are, you know, both getting an MIT and all that. And then, of course, did Flash even walk in at that point?
I don't think so.
No, that was the first time he walked in. And you know, and then he just kind of like, all right, you know, I'm not even gonna tell them right now. I'll see you guys later.
You know,
and
he might be thinking like, yeah, chaos kind of follows me, so maybe it's best that I don't tell these people, especially if I love them and stuff like that. Maybe it's best that they're not a part of my life in this.
Right, it's like
in order to protect them.
Yeah, it's like if you love them, let them go. You know, and it's kind of and that's kind of what they played it at here. But then he did say, okay, I'll see you around. So it makes you think that he's still gonna.
He Andrew Garfield them, all right?
Right. I ain't in the movie. Right. No, exactly. So I was kind of like. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a feel-good thing, right? Like, great, he loves them. He didn't want to put them in any more danger. Cool. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. You got to tell these folks who you are, man. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what route they go with that, you know. And then, of course, you know, at the very end when they showed, you know, a little snapshot of Venom there. And he's like, hey, I got to figure out who the Spider-Man guy is. And I'm like, about time, man.
So that's like, one of the stingers. The other stinger is practically a Doctor Strange trailer almost. Yeah. So, but... loving Tobey Maguire, loving Andrew Garfield. I need to see more of them. So Marvel, if you can sneak them in somehow, Sony, then I'd love to see more of them.
Yeah, and it's about time you guys are finally bringing Spider-Man and Venom together. I mean, it's almost like too little too late at this point.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know.
Because those first two Venom movies
story is kind of altered, and those Venom movies to me aren't that great.
No, I didn't think they're that great either. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some Spider-Man and Venom together. And then, of course, it's like, well, is he going to be a villain, or is he going to be like trying to help Spider-Man out? You know, because they've spun this Venom to be like a good guy now, right? So, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we'll see that when it happens, you know. But, hey guys, definitely go check this movie out. Absolutely worth seeing. I mean, it's 2.5 hours. You might have to get up and pee sometime, but you know, definitely worth going to check out. You know, stick around for the trailer, for the the Doctor Strange trailer after. Even though honestly, at this point, I think it's kind of overrated for them to make you wait so long. You know, they should just.
I don't know why they torture you and make you watch. Just have it happen right after.
Exactly. You know, but you know, it's worth checking out because they do give you some stuff from Doctor Strange that we haven't seen in the original trailers yet. But yeah, hey, you know, if you liked our review here and you like our channel, hit like and subscribe, and we will check you guys in the next review.
See you guys.
Check it, whoop.
I don't have any notes, by the way. Like 0.
No, I don't either.
Notes on this one. Yeah. Got your ass. Got him. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
COVID in a pear tree.
Prince Ali, fabulous he,
Alibaba.
What are we doing? A whole new world. You know what you're saying?
Yeah, that's it. This whole new Spider-Man world.
No way home, even though you never left.
Well, but he isn't. Yeah, but nobody knows who Peter Parker is anymore, right? So that is no way home for him because
he remembers where he lives.
He's not, but
he knows how to get there.
Well, he does, yeah, but it's not his home anymore.
All right, guys. Before we get into this movie, we are going to be.
We talk some spoilers because there ain't no way not to in this movie. Yeah, there you go.
Well, people have done it, Billy. People have done it.
Well, then people suck.